Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Paul Tootalian from South Haven, Michigan. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm just glad we finally got this all to work. So it's been a process, but it's awesome. It is what it is, and so how's everything? I know you're coming to us from Detroit today, but
Yes.
how's everything in South Haven been and
Yeah,
everything?
really great. Mark was referencing the fact that we have tried to have a discussion with one another
Huh.
previously. We had some technical
Yes.
issues, and
Yep.
so I had plans. I reside in South Haven, Michigan, which is a Lake Michigan resort town, 2 hours roughly northeast of Chicago, up the Lake Michigan Lakeshore, and I oversee a meditation retreat center there that Mark and his wife has visited. And
Yes,
I
it's
also
awesome.
met Mark, perhaps a bit ironically or not, through our shared IT uh, guy,
Mm-hmm.
whose name is Carter, and that's how
Yes.
I came to meet Mark. So that's what has led us here. I'm visiting some family and doing some business in Detroit, and happy to have a better internet connection.
Yes,
And
yes,
so,
that
and so
is amen on that. So Paul, we first got to know each other in 2020. When did you start Higher Haven?
Very good. I would say that the quick background is on the Higher Haven is I'm a teacher of
Okay.
meditation and spiritual purification, and had an experience some years ago, and then realized that I wanted to have a place rather than just teaching a class at a yoga studio for
Okay.
an hour, that I really needed a place where people could come and kind of get away from, the
Right.
din of the modern world and everything. And so I established the Higher Haven. I purchased the land in the summer of 2014 is when I found the land.
Okay. Cool.
That fall, acquired it, and then the first night that I spent there was Halloween of
Oh wow.
2014. Halloween of 2014. So
Cool.
yes, almost 10 years. I was a former advertising writer, my former career. So I was still doing that career when I kind of made the transition into what I'm doing today.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I've been in South Haven since 2014.
So what was the impetus to go from that to Higher Haven, or what caused you to want to change to what you're doing now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I was let's see. Let me sum it all up. We're talking about Michigan. I'm a Michigan guy of old.
Okay.
Born in Detroit, went to Michigan State University.
Okay.
I'm a Spartan, and graduated and worked for some time in had got a communications degree, and they had a
Oh.
really adept advertising school. I was a very creative person, Mark.
Okay.
Wasn't necessarily a person who was going to go to art school, although
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
love
Sure.
those kinds of pursuits. But my dad was a big investment business guy, so
Oh wow.
advertising was a nice way to come to terms, get
Okay.
got a
Right.
business degree. I think advertising affords creative people an opportunity to have like a cool creative career,
True.
right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be a
Interesting.
performer in Hollywood or something like that. You can be an advertising person and really have a nice career. So that's what I did previously. But during that time, I met some really amazing spiritual teachers. I
Oh.
jokingly say my Native American teacher, I jokingly say his name was Wikchasha Itonkan Tatonko,
Wow.
also known as Phil.
I love it.
And Phil's the Shikongur Lakota people of Rosebud, South Dakota.
Oh,
They're
right.
not that far from you.
No,
They're
really, not
right
far at
over
all.
the Nebraska border in
Yep.
mid-central South Dakota is where
Yep.
Phil was from.
Okay.
I met him around the year 1999, 2000. I was with him for several years, took part in his ceremonies, and had some psychological challenges when I was younger that
Okay.
made a person like him extremely attractive, and what he offered me, which was the opportunity to really be healed,
Oh,
of mind
okay.
and body and spirit. And so Phil was a traditional medicine person.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
met him while I was living in the Southwest. I lived in Arizona for some. He lived in New Mexico, although he was
Okay.
South Dakota. He went to the University of New Mexico and lived in Albuquerque.
Ah,
So
nice.
he was my teacher. So in the background, I was doing advertising, but what really was the love of my life
Mm-hmm.
was what I wanted to do from the heart was to give other people the opportunity that I had
Right.
to find healing and a sense of wellness and contentment and peace. And so, as an advertising writer, I said I was very involved in trying to use my creative talent to sell things to humanity, right? And
Nice.
to
Nice.
forward products and brands and things like that. But what I really wanted to do was write about and forward the work that Phil was doing. And then
That
now
is
with
so
the
cool.
pandemic and some of the changes that have occurred in the world, some of that work has really become very important to people.
True, true. I think that was, yeah, I think that the pandemic changed a lot of things, but I think that was for the better. That just kind of get people more in touch with. I mean, I got more in touch when Cheryl, my wife, and I were out, back there in Michigan with a little bit of time you worked with us. I
Sure.
mean, I look forward to doing more stuff down the road with you. But so, how did you do what you do? I mean, I know you have a sweat lodge and other programs you do. Is it kind of evolved, or how did you come up with your like
Oh yes,
curriculum?
it definitely has evolved. I would say that the explosion of yoga in our culture
Okay, okay,
played a role, very much so,
okay.
because we do. Oh, I was talking about my advertising career, so my our tagline, if you will, is uh, um, stillness for the mind,
Uh huh.
meditation, right? Uh,
Nice.
um, movement for the body,
Okay.
which is yoga,
Yep.
and healing for the heart.
That's so cool.
So, and then yoga, meditation, ceremony, community. I would actually that reads well, okay,
Yes.
but I would
Yes.
change the order at this point if I could, because as a person who uh, wanted to offer what I learned from Phil to others, I really felt like I had to make it a business. I
Sure.
understand
Sure.
it's a traditional pursuit, doing ceremony, etc. But I really thought that Phil's teachings were so high caliber and so helpful to me. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to reach as many people as possible, and so the Higher
Yes.
Haven was the best way for me to be able to do that. And
Yes.
as far as the programming goes, I would say that as a business person, when I
Right.
first began, my thought was, well, I'll get a standout yoga teacher, these rock and roll yoga teachers who
Right. Right.
are really, popular, etc., and they will put out the word to their students. So I went down that road for a bit, and I love yoga. I'm happy to
Okay.
say I'm in Detroit and having just done some hot yoga this morning.
Oh, did you?
It's
Okay.
it's
Okay.
amazing. It's a wonderful practice, and yet I feel that the Higher Haven is a symbol of the spiritual life that goes far, far beyond yoga, far
Yes.
beyond yoga, and it's really a space of spiritual, ceremonial purification and
Okay.
meditation, and
Okay.
we do use yoga in the service of that
Okay.
higher pursuit. So.
Very cool. So, do you have programs a year round, or do you just
That's
during
a
the?
great question. Yes, my most favorite question is I really need a frequently asked question link on my site.
Uh huh.
I might even do it by video. I'm meeting with Carter, our
Uh huh.
shared
Right. Right.
IT friend. That's our Venn diagram kind of crosses at Carter.
Exactly. Yes.
We'll see about that. I love the question of people write and say, "Do you run retreat? Do you run retreat? Do you offer retreats?" Yes, we're a retreat center.
Yep. You do.
Very busy, so they sometimes don't study everything. I'm happy to say, as far as running retreats, we do run retreats from. We start with this year with a winter noble silence meditation retreat.
Wow.
And we
Okay.
do a silent meditation retreat quarterly, winter,
Okay.
spring, summer, fall. Uh,
Okay.
and um, then we run retreats all the way through just about the holidays,
Okay.
early December, and then we
Okay.
kind of knock off. South Haven is a bit of, very rural.
It
When I
is.
first started the place, I thought, well, I'll run things from spring to the holidays, but people really want to learn, and a lot of people come,
True.
and it's very accessible. Although I grew
Yes.
up in Michigan, I have found that South Haven offers, it's almost like the Arctic in the winter. There are these large cornfields. Maybe in Nebraska, you're used to this drifting snow across the
Yes,
cornfield.
we're very used to that.
It can get pretty treacherous, but with a four-wheel drive, you easily arrived. Things are a little more challenging running things in the winter with the winter weather,
Yeah,
etc.
I can see that.
From connecting to Chicago. But
Yes.
yes, that's it. We if you look at our schedule, the higherhaven.com, we have a silent retreat coming up, and then monthly I run a nipi ceremony, which is the Lakota word for a sweat lodge.
Okay. Okay.
And Phil was a heyoka, and I think you touched on that. Perhaps, I was thinking of our former conversation. He was kind of the contrary who, brings a sense of humor and a sense of healing and a sense of
Okay.
understanding, to people of his tribe. And so I uphold that tradition by running a monthly Way of the Contrary workshop. So the Way of the Heyoka, if you will.
Okay. So you say way a contrary. What exactly does that mean when you say that?
I would say the Way of the Contrary is Heyokas were probably the most highly regarded healers
Okay.
amongst the Lakota people, and other
Okay.
tribes have other kind of representatives. The Hopi have a clown. This is the sacred clown.
Oh, okay.
This is the jester. I know a lot of tribes have kind of the coyote trickster healer, if you will. And
Sure. Okay.
this is the Lakota's version of that. And so back in the day, Mark, really interestingly, when people lived on the plains in teepees, the Heyokas would live away from the people. They were almost in awe or afraid of the Heyoka because of his power
Really?
and his healing
Okay.
power. And so Phil really uphold that tradition, and I was a part of some things in the modern world that were just otherworldly. I met
Okay.
him, like I
Okay.
said, in the late '90s, and um, had spent some time in South Dakota, and they were doing ceremony almost like it was 1998, but it seemed like 1888 there.
Wow. That would have been really interesting then. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very. I'm giving thought to it now, and haven't really expressed it much. I run the purification ceremony monthly, but I'm having a background as a writer. I'm working on some different things to bring some of these stories and some of these ideas forth to people. So
Okay. So have you written a book already, or are you just in the
I have not.
process?
I have not. I have not.
Okay.
I'm still in the process of doing so. After Phil, or really right around the same time, the original experience I had at a sweat lodge was when I went to a meditation retreat led by Shinzen Young, who's my
Okay.
meditation teacher. And then I have actually, when I came back to Michigan about now over 10 years ago, after learning out west, I have a teacher in Michigan, and his name is John Ashbrook.
Okay.
He's a big writer, so we've been working on some different projects together. So, in a little bit of time here, I really had to build a foundation for myself, which is
Yeah.
the farm that I own in Michigan. And now I'm turning the boat, if you will, towards putting forth some creative projects that better convey some of the power and some of the creativity and
Okay.
the healing ability of these things that we do.
Very nice. That's very, very nice. So, and you have a perfect place to do it. Your farm area is beautiful, but I mean, probably. Do you think more people? I think more people are attuned to this, but do you think more people are receptive to this now? What you do?
I would say that's a great question, Mark. I would say there was a general receptivity prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
I have a video on my site, and I'm doing some changes with Carter, so there may
Okay.
be more, videos that explain things that engage with people, maybe bringing the
Sure.
site to life a little bit more. But
Sure.
I would say that on that video, I make the statement that these practices have gone from the bohemian fringes of society, if you will,
Right.
to the mainstream. And really,
Sure.
the 60s, people were into peace and love
Right. Exactly.
and the beat poets and all
Yep.
of
Right.
that.
Uh
And
huh.
I think that some of the I think of like great meditation teachers like Pema Chodron, and
Okay.
she had ties to the like the Shambhala school out in Colorado. So I think it all kind of came forth in our culture, but it was a little hippie-ish, a little out there. And
True.
yes, I want to say that now there is such a listening
Yeah.
for mindfulness. If you, it's a
Yes.
great time to be a mindfulness teacher.
Yes.
Mindfulness.
Yes.
You hear that word a lot, and we teach a very very special form of mindfulness at the Higher Haven because I
Yes.
think many sitting meditation is a very challenging endeavor to be a big meditator, to really have a formal practice. And I think many times people very quickly conclude that they don't do it well or they can't do it. And there is
Uh
a
huh.
hope to kind of get over with it. So I think the pandemic, and as you had asked, really made people much more receptive to some of these practices just because of the way the world is going. It was like
Yeah.
a mass mental crisis, right? And
Definitely.
Native American ceremony heals mental illness. So there we go.
Okay. That
That's
is. I did
valuable
not.
stuff.
That is really cool. I did not realize that. So I got to ask, when you were a kid, what did you want? What were, since it's a Dreamcatcher podcast, what did you want to do when you were a child?
That's a great question. I think about that at times, and my childhood dream, I would have to say, it was a long. I thought I was going to be, and I used to tell people at 5 years old that I was going to be a zoologist. I
Okay,
really
that's cool.
loved animals, and
Hmm.
animals were my thing. I found them very magical. So that leads me to today, where I do love snakes. I love animals. I'm glad that all of the animals at the Higher Haven and are like the native people really
Hmm.
have such respect for the animal nation,
Right.
right?
Yep.
They really almost saw them as their equal. They learned from them. Phil would say that, a little bird can go stay outside in the wintertime. You don't have the
Right.
power that's a power
That
that's,
is.
and so they would learn from those animals. So I would say that I don't know if zoologists has come to, I'm a bit of a doctor, I suppose, a bit of a healer, and I do draw upon
Right.
animal understanding. But I would say, really, this just came to me. I was devoid of a childhood dream. Part of the
Really.
well, I mean, other than I'm happy to tell you about that animal connection,
Sure.
'cause that's true. But really, I was part of a very, very difficult family of origin. That I don't identify with the difficult part anymore, but it did set me up to be of extremely effective in having a desire to help others have the same opportunity of healing that I had. Because
Okay.
really, if I hadn't had met Phil and been given a chanupa, which is the sacred pipe of the Lakota people,
Okay.
really learned about spiritual things. Phil was kind of like my father, like a dad to me for a little while,
Okay.
and he
Definitely.
really brought me along.
That is
So
so cool. That is really cool. What is next? What do you see the Higher Haven being like in 5 years? What are dreams you have there?
I would say that I really well, my original dream, I wanted to be very professional about it. I felt like I was taught by extremely professional teachers and mentors in kind of this very like mystical world, but they were very pro. So
Okay.
my original thought was like get the the superstar yoga teachers was, why don't I appeal to the advertising world? Why don't I appeal to
Ah,
business people and be the
right.
teacher of meditation to business? Well, there wasn't so much a listening when I began 13 years ago. When I moved back to Michigan in 2010, I really conveyed that to my teacher John after establishing
Mm-hmm.
with him. And the advertising world wanted to see the bottom line. Where
Yeah.
we're going to build a program based on mindfulness and teaching people meditation. Well, how does that benefit us? It was, where's the money kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it
Absolutely.
was difficult. So I went the route, per working with John and his direction, to just teach individuals really. And so that's been great, Mark. Also very challenging. Building your whole business individual by individual, word
Yeah.
of mouth by word of mouth.
True.
It was daunting, but
Yeah.
it's again given me a very solid foundation where those people have brought friends and family and then put the word out. And now you asked about my 5-year vision. I really feel like having established a foothold in the spiritual world and being a place for very high caliber spiritual teaching, now that
Wow.
there's a
Okay.
value for that,
True.
you
Right.
know, corporate
Yes.
America, maybe not fully, but has some listening since the pandemic for their people to be well, for
Yes.
for them to put preventative care practices in place. And nothing is more healing and soothing and empowering than meditation.
Right. Yes.
And so I think that they value it more now. So the 5-year goal is, I'd really like to get a little bit more of a foothold in the corporate world.
Okay.
I think that
Nice.
or a little bit more of a collaborative effort. I've really been out in the woods, working on the engine of my place, if you will, and then it kind of all took off, and skyrocketed.
Right. Right.
I'm not sure who the collaboration will be with, but definitely want to expand the business with the sole goal of reaching and helping as many people as possible.
Would you ever, if you found the right person, ever do a satellite of Higher Haven?
People have talked about
I
satellites.
bet.
Well, let me get the main headquarters, really humming, and we're,
Yeah, I
we're
hear.
close to doing that. I would absolutely, absolutely. There's all kinds of collaborations that can occur, and you just have to be kind of in energetic accord, I like to say.
True. I hear you what you're saying there too. So okay. So what are some other things you like to do that probably feed into what you do? I mean, do you like to travel or I
I
mean,
love yes, thank you for asking. I think
okay.
I wish I would have been able to familiarize myself more with your efforts. I really
Okay.
enjoyed some of the interviews, but I did see a
Thank you.
why Cheryl and I travel, talked
Uh-huh.
about New Orleans a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
And I actually read a quote. I don't know who it's by, but the paraphrase is like, we don't travel to escape life. We travel so that life does not escape us.
Amen. Yes.
And so
Perfect.
that's very true. Traveling has opened my eyes and my heart to the people of the world. I would say that I like to jokingly say that I find the rich and the well off in the world kind of boring, and I think I
I
think
agree with you
the
in
poor
general.
indigenous people of the world, having spent time in Vietnam, and that Vietnam played a really big role in my healing, and
Okay.
just realizing I'm very fond of saying we're so richly different and yet the same. And you can't
Right.
really have that experience unless you kind of travel. You travel to another culture. You travel to another
Yep.
place. And so Vietnam I've been to Vietnam many times, and just came back last year, and I was happy to be a part of their New Year's
Oh,
tent
wow.
celebration. I had a chance
Cool.
to Peru.
Okay.
Being interested in shamanic healing practices,
Right.
I found some other cultures, in South America and Asia that have
Okay.
really, really ancient ties to healing and altars, and
Nice.
understanding that um, I just did, I never would have acquired or had
Yep.
influenced me without having done that.
Yeah. No better education than traveling. You get to actually be part of it, and you actually get to see how it really is. And I hear really good things about Vietnam now. It seems like a country that's really on its own, or is that have you found it, or
It is amazing. It is, I would say, what happened with my finding Vietnam was um, Phil passed, my teacher, in 2006 and of January, and my father soon after, May of 2006. And so that was a difficult time. I did the martial art Aikido for
oh, did you? Okay.
found a dojo and just did Aikido for a little while, and that helped me to kind of keep my spiritual energy up or my hope up. And then through advertising,
Okay.
I met a guy. I did a job for a graphic design firm. I was living in California, San Francisco, and he had a friend in Vietnam. That friend worked in advertising, so that world
Oh,
originally,
perfect.
and I had had some notions about learning about Vietnam and read some things and just had some personal experiences that led me there. And so I went there in 2007.
Okay.
Have visited there, I think about half a dozen times, and just
Oh, wow. Cool.
this past year
Uh-huh.
after the pandemic passed, it was really nice to get traveling again. So that was
Yes.
a wonderful experience. What I wanted to say was, I having established the Higher Haven, I want to go out into the world and find resources, people have experiences that I then bring that back and then share it with people and make it a part of our
Awesome.
repertoire, if you will. And
I love
also
that.
was really happy to have gone to India, Eastern India,
Oh,
and
wow.
did a Hindu tour over there with a friend, and it was amazing and a really
So, was it what you thought it would be like?
uh, let me think about that. I would say that I've heard really things about India with the crush of people and
Right, right.
population and all these difficulties. I found a beauty and an energy there that was just amazing. I didn't know what I
Okay.
anticipated, before I went, other than it delivered like, wow. I mean, to the point where I went back 1 year later. I love
Wow.
snakes, and we had gone through the town where the snake charmers are.
Oh, yeah. In the basket?
They,
Yes.
they use
Uh-huh.
the flute, and
Yes.
those are defanged cobras that live in baskets, and they're domesticated, if you will. But
Okay.
I had a chance to go back a year later and went on a cobra hunt that my friend in India
Wow.
put together, and we actually found a wild cobra.
Wow.
And yes, that was one of the better days that of my
Ah.
travel times, catching a
So,
wild cobra in India.
so how do you catch a wild cobra?
Well, we had some very skilled South Indian cobra snake guys. And
Okay, that sounds
and there was
good.
there was a farm there
Okay.
in southern India. Um, I'm trying. I can't think of the town, but there was a farm where they actually caught poisonous snakes and milked the poison, and
Oh,
would
sure.
make anti-venom
Sure.
for people. And so visited a snake farm in southern India of
Wow.
really highly poisonous cobras and snakes, and it was really an amazing, amazing, amazing
I,
trip.
have you ever been to Australia? So they have some snakes down there that are intimidating.
Yes, the crate, and they have Australia has a host of super poisonous, insects and things like
They
that.
do, yeah.
And I have not. I have not. I know a lot of Australian people you'll meet in Vietnam because it's on that side of the world. And
Sure,
so
okay.
it's an easy jaunt from Australia to Vietnam. And so I have not been there yet. That's on my list. I would really
Okay.
like to visit Perth. I had an idea
Oh,
a long
yeah.
time ago as a young person that I thought it'd be really neat to visit Perth, which is on the far shore of like Sydney and some of those other towns.
Okay. I hear Rosie, and Rosie for
Rose,
yeah, it's an
it's a
awesome dog that you have.
Yeah,
So,
Rose. It's a really hot day in Michigan today. We got
okay.
up to 88,
Oh, wow,
88.
you did get warm.
Yeah, really hot, almost 90. And so Rosie, we're staying in a hotel room, and Rosie has been very good. Been just Do we want to see Rosie? Do people do this sort of thing?
Oh, sure, definitely.
Hi,
Hi,
honey.
Rosie.
That is noise blue.
I last time I saw you, Rosie, you were a puppy.
Oh, that's
So, oh,
Rose. You're just
yeah. So, what kind of dog is Rosie?
That's true. That's true. Rosie was a puppy. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Just.
Rosie's three. Rosie's a Hungarian Vizsla.
Oh, wow.
Yes. She's doing a perfect downward dog right
Oh, she is. She knows her yoga.
now. She
That's
does.
awesome. I love
She
it.
inspires me with her downward dog. She's a
Oh,
Hungarian Vizsla, not the most well-known breed. It's a little like a little red Weinerheimer. A lot of people are familiar with the Weinerheimers, like the
sure. Right. Yes.
and they're a hunting breed, this breed, and similar with the ears, but a little bit smaller and red like a Rhodesian Ridgeback. So
Oh, okay.
a little
Okay.
mashup between Rhodesian Ridgeback and the gray Weinerheimer. And that's the
Okay.
Hungarian Vizsla.
Okay. Okay. I did not know that.
Yes.
So, no, it looked like Rosie and you had a good time earlier today. So, I.
Yeah. Mark's referencing we're in Detroit and I'm a Michigan guy and I live on the west side of the state near Chicago now, which is a big new frontier for me. I enjoy it, but I am a Tigers fan, and so Rosie and I went to Bark in the Park.
And looked like you were having a very good time. Rosie looked really like she's having a good time.
Well,
So,
well, one of Rosie's nickname is shortstop. Because
yeah.
she knocks the ball down like Javier Baez is our superstar shortstop that played for the Chicago Cubs,
Uh-huh.
and so Rosie, I jokingly call her shortstop, and
Cool.
shortstop got to see Javier Baez, and he's got nothing on Rosie. She said,
That's awesome. I love that. That is so.
"That's
So,
funny."
okay. So, have you and Rosie thought about doing a podcast yourself?
That's a great call. I mean, Mark, when I see what you're doing, I absolutely have thought of that. I
Okay,
would
cool.
love to meet other spiritual teachers who are making a
Yeah.
difference in the world. It was funny. When I wanted to familiarize myself with what you were doing, and I
Right.
mentioned this when we previously we had some technical difficulties, but
Yes.
I could sum up everything you're doing with the dream catcher, which, and by the way, the dream catcher was, I know it was originally the Ojibwe people
Really? Is
established.
that okay? I did not know that.
I think it was more like a charm, like a magical kind of thing that was related to a spider web in the
Oh,
past, but then, it became what it is today.
yes. Yes.
And I would say if we're talking about dreams, right?
Yes.
You talked to
Exactly.
people who kind of made their dream come true, if you will.
Yep.
And really, I had a dream and a vision in a very traditional culture, that brought a lot of healing to my life. And so I'm a huge fan of this quote, and I
Okay.
felt like it really kind of summed up what the people that you're talking to are doing. And I
Okay.
would want to talk to those people as well. People that are making their dream happen,
Yes.
doing some type of work in the world that is of bettering their own
Yes.
experience here, as well as the experience of others. So that's what we're doing at the Higher Haven.
Yes.
I'm making a dream come true.
Exactly.
I have this quote here. Lawrence of Arabia, they call him Lawrence of Arabia because they did a movie about him, but T.E.
Okay.
Lawrence
Okay.
was the name of the adventurer and warrior and writer, if you will. And he said that all men dream, right, but not
Right.
equally.
Right.
Those who dream by night dream in the dusty recesses of their minds, and they awake to find that it was but vanity. But
Wow.
the dreamers of the day and women in
Right.
today's world are dangerous men and women, for they will act their dream with open eyes to make it all possible.
That is such. I love that. That is awesome quote. So
Yeah,
and so true.
I reference it because if you talk to any human being, everyone has desires and dreams
They
and an
do.
idea about life, etc. How many
Yep.
people make a rock solid go at building a foundation so that they can then make that dream happen. And they do. And there are people in
Yeah.
the world who do it.
There are, yes.
And
That,
so it's amazing. And we look to those people as lights or guides or inspirations. And I've been so blessed to have some of those in my life. I'm very happy to become a person, who's walking in their footsteps, who,
yes.
the charge was to, I'll do this for you. And, your mission then is to do it for others as well.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Because, and like you said, everybody, pretty much everybody I've ever talked to, even people that are really down on their luck, have had dreams or had dreams, but most of them don't ever, for one thing, they don't think it's possible. They don't know the way to do it. And most of them long ago thought they needed to do the quote unquote, be responsible, thing where they just have to forget their dreams. And actually did a little thing on Facebook just a little bit ago. Actually, the responsible thing, which society does not teach, is actually living your dreams so you can show the world what's possible to your kids, to everybody around you, because it's all possible. Even the word says I'm possible, and it is. But we just well, I saw a quote the other day. It's like, when you're a kid, they, say, go after your dreams. What are your dreams when you're a kid? But then when you become an adult, they look at you kind of funny when you, go after your dreams. So, and somebody's like, so it's like, so what happens in that time from when you're a child to an adult? It's too bad society doesn't keep pushing, going after your dreams, because I'm a big fan of Ripple. If you catch your dreams, all the good you can do, all the good you're doing at Higher Haven, all the people you're touching, I mean, Ripple is so much important in the world. I mean, we need that. We need the positivity. We need all that. So,
All that. Well, we're realizing the connectivity, if you will.
yes.
I would say that part of the thing with the pandemic was not even knowing what was true for a little while.
True. Very true.
What's true? Who's speaking the truth? Can we trust the government?
Yep.
And now we're all discerning what is true for ourselves
Yep.
and coming to terms with that. And I think that's one big question that humanity is facing is
I think so too.
what is true for us individually as well as collectively as people
Yes.
living on the earth and the direction that it's all going.
Yep. Yeah. Because I mean, there's so many conflicting things, especially since the pandemic, because each state did each government was a little bit different what they were telling you, and I think it did wake up a lot of people. I hope it woke up a lot of people.
How did Nebraska do on I really like I'm a little I shouldn't say this. I'm a little to the right,
Me
myself.
too.
I really like South Dakota's
Yeah.
governor.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you?
Very much. Oh,
That
yeah,
is
very much.
great.
Actually,
See, I
Nebraska.
think the name of her book is Not My First Rodeo.
I saw that. I saw that the
thought
other
was
day.
cool. I want to read that book. So,
No.
she's cool. And so I didn't know about Nebraska's, spent a little time in Nebraska, but
During the pandemic, we had no lockdown. We didn't do much of anything, and we didn't have many cases at all. We had to wear a mask for a short amount of time, but
I see.
otherwise, we didn't have much that went on here.
I see.
So,
I see. It was pretty wide open.
it was very wide open. Because I know just while talking to Carter, you guys had a lockdown in Michigan.
Oh man.
So,
Gretchen Whitmer, our governor, big time lockdown.
yeah, that makes it tough it just makes it tough on all aspects. I don't know how you can keep on living, with a work and everything else. I can understand it. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that, the Higher Haven, 2 hours outside of Chicago, buying 20 acres of land with, 5 acres of wetland and 5 acres of grassland and 10 of beautiful woods was the best thing I ever did, because
Yeah.
I did experience some of Chicago during the pandemic and it was really frightening. So
Really?
being safe out in the woods in nature felt great. Felt
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
And so we really did a lot of outdoor distancing, nature walks, outdoor yoga, some, safe, but really the
Sure.
pandemic made everything explode in a fabulous direction, really made
True.
everybody turn inward, if you will, and
Right,
want
right.
to build in inner resources where they didn't have resources before. So
True.
yeah, it was an odd time. It was an
Very
odd time,
much.
but there's going to be more of those. There's going to
Yeah.
be so that's why the Higher Haven is all about building from within. We can
Yes.
look at what we have built on the outside and spend a lifetime amassing material wealth,
Right.
goals, and those things will bear us nothing
Yep.
when it comes to the fact that our lives are ending, or there's another
As
world behind this world.
right, right.
So what uh, I like to say. I often wish people the best in this world as well as the world to come, because some people don't have any
True.
resources when it comes to impermanence
Mhm.
and
Yep.
the fact that human lives, there's lots of distractions here, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Constant.
it's also a place of enjoyment and a place of beauty and
It
all
is.
kinds of like amazing activity that people get interested in. But
Yep.
we really like that building of those inner skills,
Yes.
that
So important and so needed. I think that, I mean, do you think that's why there's so much anxiety now? I mean, it seems like there's so many people dealing with, I know at least anxiety. I talk to a lot of people with anxiety. Do you think
Sure.
that's part of that they just don't have the inner?
I would say, well, this is what I'd say. Rosie is being a little verbal. We're going for a walkie, like right when we're okay, please. One thing that I noticed in it being a teacher of the ceremonial way of people, indigenous people of the Americas, it was really a way for them to purify and focus themselves, and their lives were very difficult,
Hmm.
and they lost people. Death was very close. They lived very close to death, so
Oh,
they needed
wow.
to have all kinds of resources when it came to death and the fact that
Okay.
life is so brief. And they saw so much in nature. They saw the natural cycles because they lived in nature, so they saw a natural spirituality there,
Sure, sure.
if you will.
Okay.
And I think that people have gotten away from that. And
Hmm.
I think that the way of the modern world is like very frenetic and kind of
Yes.
like a lot of stimulation,
Oh, yes.
a lot of stuff vying for
Continually.
attention, and that will drive you crazy, for lack of a better.
Yeah.
Wheat go.
It
Wheat
will.
is a Lakota word for crazy. And you'll be wheat go, man. It's easy to see how people are driven crazy. But a little when we do retreats and ceremony at the Higher Haven, we do very powerful practices that draw upon nature, and there's more to be said about that. But I like to remind people that just the natural, simplified environment of spending a little bit of time in nature.
Yes, I agree.
And I mean, people camp and they love it. Maybe they camp
Yep.
and they're jamming their radios. Or we live in South Haven, which is a resort town, and it draws a lot of people who come for relaxation.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the things that they do don't appear all that relaxing, but I think just
True.
simply being in nature, listening to birds, just simplifying the environment because our
Yep.
world is so chaotically, mayhemic, like
It
mayhemic.
is. And always on. I mean, it's almost
Yeah,
24/7
yes,
anymore,
yes.
too.
Like one person came to a meditation retreat, and this still stays with me. I was writing down the classes, that retreat's definition of mindfulness and meditation, and what they were trying to do. And you're trying to stop going from one thing to a thing to another thing to
Right.
another thing to another thing. How can we fill ourselves and be content from within
Very
and
true.
not have to, rely on the ever changing way of the outer world that's so illusory, really.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and now we've got all kinds of trouble that who knows when we talk about what's going to happen to the world. Well, if you have a foothold into the world to come, which is, you can find within yourself just by
Right.
following, your breath and working
Yes.
with things, then it doesn't really matter. All is well.
Yes. Yes, I love that. So Paul, is there anything else you want to share with the guests today, or maybe we could tie it up there? And
You know what? I feel like I really enjoyed our talk very much.
me
I
too.
haven't done about a lot of, this is my first podcast. I've never really spoken in an arena like this, so I appreciate the opportunity
Well,
to do
thank
so.
you.
I would love to wrap up by just saying, if you have an interest, if you really need the big guns, I did. I needed like the big guns, and I was
Uh-huh.
very happy and blessed to get a Native American teacher that was a powerhouse. And I don't think I can say with great confidence that there's nothing that isn't healable. There's nothing that isn't transformable. And for me to say that after some of my difficulties, I just want to offer that to people. Higherhaven.com. We're 2 hours outside of Chicago,
Okay.
Michigan resort town, and
Yes.
silent retreats, a Nipi sweat lodge ceremony once a month, and then we do yoga. And if you have something really interesting to teach, we're all about learning. So
Oh, wow.
we have
Cool.
a high aiming curriculum, but would love to hear from people who are, you
Who
know,
are
who are in energetic accord with us or on a similar road.
very nice. I love that. That sounds like a great way. We'll leave it right there. And I will put that in the show notes too. We'll have all that so people can find all that out too.
Oh,
Um,
there you go. Yeah, I didn't, it's funny doing this, Mark. I thought that was my plug. I felt like I was on the David Letterman show
no,
for,
that's good. We both you can't.
oh,
That's
good, Paul. Paul Simon.
yeah, exactly. So
But Mark, it was an honor coming on here. I'd love
thank you
to
for.
get a little more deft at, working with this kind of tool and maybe talk to you again. And
Yes, I would love
I
to
would
have you back.
would love to have you back. And I know we had a nice private meditation lesson a couple
Yes,
summers ago,
we
but you
did.
had a real interest in coming back for ceremony, and so I hope you
Oh
do.
yes.
I
Oh,
hope
we
you
will. It's going to happen. Yes,
it's in the works.
it is. Yes. So yeah, definitely going to do that. So, but well, I'll look forward to talking to you again, and we'll put make sure everybody can get a hold of you, and we'll leave it at that. So thanks, Paul, for joining us, and
Thank
thanks,
you.
Rosie, and
Thank you, Rose.
and we'll leave it at that. So thanks again for joining us, Paul, and take care.
Until the next Mark Doksha.